Welcome to Alive and Writing, a podcast on troubleshooting life as a writer.
I'm Chautona Having.
I'm April Heyman.
And I'm C.R. Rowanson. We're here.
We're alive.
And we're writing.
Yeah.
And we're what?
Well, guess what I did last week?
What did you did?
Is this where you're going to tell us about your pen collection?
No. I could. We'd be here for the whole 20 minutes talking about my awesome fountain pen collection and the multiple bottles of ink that I have, but we won't. Although I did get the new Lammy. Anyway. No, I made buttons.
You made buttons?
I made buttons.
As in button who's got the button? Or as in like...
or the big red doom button?
Or I'm thinking, political
cool
buttons,
Nope, I made buttons for putting on junk journals and stuff. Just for scrapbooking and whatnot.
Those are fun to make.
So like snap buttons or?
No, they're actually just like
functional
little
buttons.
So just like little shirt buttons, but they're in different colors, and it's like almost like it's glue and paper. What is that called?
Paper mache?
Paper. It's almost like paper mache.
Huh.
So did you use like Sculpey or did you...
I actually used some matte medium and tissue paper, different colored tissue papers. I also have a bunch of really fancy napkins, paper napkins that I tear apart.
Oh, cool.
I even got the kids into it because my hands gave out, so they started cutting stuff apart for me.
I had no idea this was a thing.
It is a thing, believe it or not.
We always made them out of fabric and out of like the little O-rings, we would weave, and you create these beautiful buttons out of weaving as a kid.
That's true, but I like these because they're not perfect, and they've got all these really wonderful textures on them and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
So the purpose of all this, dear listeners, is because today we are actually talking about hobbies.
Hobbies!
Woot!
What they are, why you should have them, and where to find them.
And Clark has some interesting ones, actually.
It's not collecting heads, by the way.
Yes, it is. He just doesn't. He's not. Oh, that's right. We were supposed to tell about it. He doesn't collect heads.
Chautona!
Sorry, it's that honesty thing my parents drilled it into me.
So for the longest time, I had more hobbies than brain cells. So I've had to cut that down quite a bit because I couldn't even remember them all. Right now, with some of my favorites, or the ones I'm actually continuing, are blacksmithing and martial arts. Ooh. In the past, I've also done wire wrapping for jewelry making, which is...
Cool pictures.
It's very therapeutic, and it's really cool stuff. I've also done lock picking with pure intentions, I promise, NSA.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've done magic, sleight of hand style magic, which is so much fun. I actually picked that up at the Renaissance Festival, convincing kids that I was turning stones into jewelry.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Some of the best days.
Cool. Yeah.
And something called contact juggling, which if any of you have ever seen the movie Labyrinth with David Bowie, what he's doing with the crystal sphere is contact juggling. And if you haven't seen the movie, shame on you, go watch it.
In the liner notes, and we're going to force Chautona to watch it.
Movie night!
Movie night! Woo!
So wait a minute.
Those are some of my hobbies.
Okay, yeah, but come on. Gaming. We know this. Why
isn't gaming in the list?
Come on.
Gaming is not a hobby. That's a way of life.
Did you see how he said that? All serious like and stuff?
I know, yeah. He got totally... when I said gaming, his entire face dropped. We're talking total deadpan, like, seriously, woman?
Okay, I'm not actually that uptight about gaming. To clarify, we're talking about... There's several different kinds of gaming that you can get into. There's video gaming, which is the most popular and well-known one for the current generation. There's board games, and there's so many awesome board games out there that you guys should check them out. Specifically, what we're talking about is RPG and tabletop gaming.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we are?
That's usually what I talk about. And part of the reason I don't list that in hobbies is I consider it's actually lumped into writing. It's more storytelling is what I do. Writing is a part of that.
They're going to teach me all about this because I'm clueless.
I am drumming up a one-shot that we're going to run them through. It's going to be fun.
We should totally tape that.
Oh, that would be fun.
Okay.
Or record it for those who are not as old as I am.
And just so you know, the game that we are going to be playing, it is Scion. It was originally, I believe, White Wolf Publishing. I believe now they are Onyx Path. The point is the characters are the children from various pantheons through history.
Ew.
And you have special powers, and it's dealing with all of this kind of stuff, and it's going to be a ton of fun. But my point is, RPG gaming, I consider it's part storytelling.
And here, all I'm thinking about is video games.
Oh, no, it's so heavily related. When you're a player, sorry, she got to talk about her buttons. I get to talk about my gaming.
Oh, no. See, no, because I didn't talk about fountain pens, and I totally could have gone off like that, too.
I know, but you still talked about buttons.
Button,
For
button.
like 2 minutes.
Right, so I'm going to get my 2 minutes about this.
Oh, my gosh.
Or 10, whatever. So,
I think the point is that you can become very passionate about,
can we do an episode about RPG gaming?
maybe.
Yay!
After you put me through the rigor so I know what the heck you guys are talking about, because I'm
so
like
we'll
lost.
talk about that later because I can talk about why RPG gaming is amazing and all writers should do it. In fact, all people should do it. I'm done.
And why everybody should have a fountain pen.
Sure.
Of course.
You have to write your character stats somehow.
Right?
Exactly
Yeah. And why not with beautiful ink? Okay, awesome.
Okay, we're getting off topic. So,
Are we?
Those are.
Isn't that our hobby?
It's true.
No topic is the hobby.
Maybe we're getting a little too much on topic, and we need
Oh, good point.
Okay, so why do we need hobbies in the first
Well,
place?
I actually want to hear about more of your hobbies. So I gave you 5 or so of mine. What about
Okay.
you, Chautona?
Okay.
Oh, fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to,
I'm going to April, and she's going to
I'm
me.
gonna throw you under the bus.
So-
Okay,
this
so
time.
my
So
bus.
for you
Well,
listeners-
speaking of buses,
Real quick, for you listeners, I just want you to know how I manage this on the podcast. I watch the other 2, and whichever one seems most ready to hand it off, I attack them instead.
yes, and yes, he does, and he did very well, jerk. See, but he mentioned the bus, right? Or somebody mentioned the bus. The bus was mentioned. One of my hobbies, I'm calling it a hobby, is travel.
Travel's a hobby.
I love to travel alone. I have a whole blog post about why I love to travel alone instead of with people. Most of that has to do with having 9 kids.
And no witnesses.
And let me qualify this though. As far as most of my travel is concerned, I call it research because that's what I do when I travel. I research. So my trip to Savannah was all about Savannah, and my writing retreat every year, I do research all over the place. I got a whole series in Kentucky planned because I drove through Kentucky. So I'm going to tell you something. Travel, research, total. But I love travel. I also like quilting. I do, you take a perfectly good piece of fabric, you chop it up, you sew it back together. It's now smaller than it was originally, and that's fun. I like card making. You do the same thing with paper that you do with fabric. It's awesome. And sewing, again, except sewing's a little, whatever.
Basically, what I'm hearing is you like cutting things apart and putting them back together
And
in
how do
different
you
ways.
not write horror?
I know, right? And I like graphic design.
This is true.
And I'm reasonably good at it.
Yes, you are.
Cool.
She
So,
does the covers for my book.
And mine.
oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No, you've actually never told me that.
Well,
She's done all the covers for my books.
and mine.
Huh. Well,
So you
we're
know
learning
you could-
together. So, Chautona, how do you feel about some darker themes?
I've never. And I was about to say I've never done dripping blood, but I did.
You did dripping blood. Thank you very much.
It was ink blood, but it was blood-ish.
So, April, what are your hobbies? We talked about.
So many. All right,
I know
So,
we're all in that boat.
so fountain pens, of course. I love fountain pens. I love everything about them. I think they are a marvel of engineering. They are. We have such this really wonderful rich history of storytelling and writing, and fountain pens, I think, are one of the most creative ways that we have been able to bring that all together. And plus they're so cool to write with. I mean,
They are.
I really do
They
love
are.
them.
Yeah.
I have an obscene amount of stationery. I have I know. I have lots and lots of pen pals all around the world. I participate in NaCoWriMo and National Letter Writing Month every year.
All that stationary. Slow down. You're moving too fast. I'm done.
Different spelling.
For spelling. So
I couldn't help myself.
So every time I go somewhere, I always pick up some new stationery. I do love it. Multimedia art is another one. I have a degree in art, so.
What is multimedia art exactly?
So for me, multimedia art is using more than just one type of media. So I'm not just painting, I'm bringing in three-dimensional art, I'm printing things off the computer, things that are, you're mixing your media. So basic pen, as well as paint, as well as paper.
Oh, okay.
So I'm
It's
using more than one.
kindergarten for adults.
It is. And it
You know where
Finger paint.
Right. You know, they
No,
had
I
finger
do.
painting, and you went ahead and put your, torn up papers in there because you were like, oh, look at this. Well, she does it with an adult style. Or
It looks better than what a 5-year-old could do. Thank you very much. But yes,
exactly,
I do.
that's my point.
But yes, I do use my fingers. Thank you very much. I used to knit. I still have all my knitting stuff, but with my fingers being all swollen most of the time, I can't knit. But I have knitted I used to knit all my socks. So I love knitting. I love watching people knit. I love yarn. I like collecting yarn.
It's very soothing.
It is. And gardening.
Oh, okay.
And which is really hard to do in the desert.
It is.
Yeah.
This year I don't have a garden this year. I decided to wait until we can get a greenhouse put in because we live so far out. The winds that we get here are so hot and dry where I live that it just kills everything I try to grow.
Think of fan blowing in an oven.
So another thing I wanted to ask you guys is how did you find these various hobbies? How did you get started in them?
Well,
I mean,
sewing.
so that way our listeners can make their own blueprint on how to find weird and interesting hobbies.
Yeah, right? No, sewing. I'm telling you, this is it. Are you ready for this? I wanted Nancy Drew's wardrobe.
She was a child at the time, by the way. I just want to kind of clarify that.
Thank you.
She wasn't like 30 and decided, I want to look like Nancy Drew.
Yeah, I was 12, and I got a sewing machine, and I got some fabric, and I made Nancy Drew's wardrobe because I liked her clothes. I thought they were cool. I was an 80s kid wearing 50s clothes, but hey, I didn't care.
It's also when she started to dabble in field medicine.
What about, how did you get involved in, we know how you got involved in fountain pens. Skip that. How'd you get involved in knitting?
Do you actually know how I got my first fountain pen?
I don't.
You like stationery, okay?
That came
Oh,
after the
you're
fountain
making
pens.
assumptions.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, you are
profiling,
making-
and we don't
you-
do it unless it's characters
don't
in
know.
fiction.
You
You've
don't
told
actually
me.
know.
You've told me. I don't remember.
probably have told
The
you.
suspense.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do you really want to know?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were being sarcastic.
No.
It's kind of hard to tell sometimes.
Well, okay.
Yeah. I know.
Own it,
Some things
Mark.
you can't argue with.
Okay, so the short version was I needed a pen, and I went to Kmart, and they have this huge wall of pens, and I decided, but which one's the best? Because I'm not going to spend, because Kmart's expensive, I'm not going to spend like $3 on a pen if it's not going to work very well, if I'm not going to like it. So I went online, and I did research, which is my other hobby.
Yes.
I love researching.
Also a lifestyle.
Also
Yes,
lifestyle.
yes.
And I stumbled across not only the top 10 pencils, which is a real thing, I'll link to it, but also this thing called fountain pens. I'm like, people still use fountain pens? That's when I fell down the rabbit hole. She's using my special edition pilot from a couple years ago.
Very
It's
special
a
fountain
clickable. Well, nobody else makes them but these.
So, so
Listen.
you.
It clicks.
A
And it's a
clickable fountain
fountain
pen. I mean, come on. That's almost sacrilegious.
So you seriously found this hobby because you needed a pen.
Yeah.
I am not kidding
Yep.
you.
I
That's
remember the story now.
fantastic. So it's kind of interesting.
It's addictive.
I mentioned Labyrinth as a perfect example, and it's probably the most well-known example of contact juggling in pop culture. That's how I got into it, actually.
Really?
I had been watching that for years because I love that movie. It's an amazing movie.
It's that old?
Yeah.
It is old. It's from the 80s.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
was
old.
a teenager.
Oh, it's so good. But I found out that what he was doing with the spheres was not an effect. It's a thing. More than that, it's an actual performance art. So then I found websites and I found a place I could buy them. And then I broke a couple lamps.
And your mom never spoke to you again.
No, she was okay with it. Anyway.
She hated it. She wanted new lamps, okay? She paid him to break the lamps so she could get new ones. We know this.
I found it from a movie that I adored.
Right.
Another hobby that I picked up. Again, I was at the Renaissance Festival. Of course, I had seen street magicians, right? Everybody has seen street magicians. But I played the Queen's Royal Guard, and the king actually would do small magic tricks for the kids. And he showed me a couple. And watching how some of them were skeptics, but you had those kids who, because they were at the festival, were willing to believe anything. It was amazing. I went and got so many books on magic. I was doing a lot. Anyway,
cool stuff.
There's weird places you can pick up hobbies. What about you, Chautona?
Well,
Other than the Nancy Drew.
Okay. Well, okay. All right. I like graphic design. I did it because I needed a book cover. I gotta admit, it was a hideous book cover. I don't like knowing that exists on the internet because you can never get rid of it. It was hideous, but I wanted to get better, and I started studying, and I started playing, and now I make book covers for books that I will never write, but I don't care because it's fun.
So a hobby can literally come from anything.
Yeah, and it can become a job.
That's true.
Writing.
Writing. Yay!
Oh, I did it with sewing. I did it with quilting. I did it with doll making.
Really?
I used to make porcelain dolls.
Huh.
I've had a lot of hobbies. You and I, when it comes to hobbies, we're scared.
You're responsible for the demon dolls.
Yeah.
So we have all these hobbies. How did you decide that one was going to be a hobby, but that one wasn't?
When I didn't want to stop doing it.
Okay.
Nice.
You know, some things you try it and you
answer.
like it and you had fun doing it, but you're done.
So that's a fair point. Another one that is going to be turning into a hobby is a while back I found some interesting software on map making, cartography. Like you make these digital maps for stories or whatever, and it's really fun. And I want to do more and more of that. That's going to become more and more of a hobby.
See, there you go. I mean, just from something you need and you decide that this is too much fun not to do it more often. And if it's a hobby that helps you with your weather, you can justify it to yourself when you're feeling guilty for not getting something done.
Now, there's the ever important question of why you should have other hobbies besides writing. And if you've listened to us at all, I'm sure you can guess why.
Yay!
That's true. Well, my books building is about a stationery shop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And about fountain pens.
And about fountain pens.
Just like everything.
And all the research she's done on fountain pens. And come on, Shakespeare.
And Shakespeare.
Just like everything else I always like to talk about because I'm a sap, this is important for your mental health and your well-being as a person and your skills as a writer.
Yes. One of the things that when we were talking about it earlier, you need this. The way that I came up with is it is preventative soul maintenance.
Nice.
Yes.
I like that.
Self-care.
It is a form of self-care. It is a way of just centering yourself again. That sounds so very
New agey, but it's true.
It's true. It's a really great way to. And when my writing creative brain goes nuts. Mm-hmm. And I can tell I'm just like bouncing all over the place. The best thing for me is to walk away from it, right? And what is the best thing for me to do? Go make a card.
And
Go sew something. Go do something non-writing related, but that is still creative. And
Yeah.
most hobbies in some form or another are creative.
And we talked about this a lot in the episode on taking time for yourself. And this is one of the things you can do when you're taking time for yourself.
Yeah.
And again, I had meant this reminds me of a story. So hobbies can also be really helpful. Not only are they just routine maintenance, they can be what gets you by when your entire life has gone to when your entire life is FUBAR. Is that okay?
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
I know what it means. It's fine.
When your entire life is FUBAR, your hobbies can get you through that. When I was in college, I was getting into the weeds with the engineering classes, and a couple of them were killers. I actually, I learned slower. And I still learn slower than a lot of the other engineers.
I thought you were admitting that you got into marijuana. I was like, why are you saying this?
In public.
I know.
For the record.
So, here's actually an interesting fact about me. I am actually allergic to marijuana.
I don't even want to know how you know that.
No. This is a fun little tidbit that I like telling people. So, marijuana, also the hemp plant, actually grows wild in a number of states in the Midwest because hemp, not for the smoking properties, the fibers was
clothes and rope.
clothes, rope, and paper was actually a cash crop for America. It is part of what founded America,
yes.
Right.
And it was pivotal during the Civil War because people needed it for lashings and for troops.
Right.
So because of that, it grows wild in certain parts of Nebraska. So I ran around like a wild child, and I found out that the oil from the leaves makes me break out in hives. The pollen is my most severe allergy. I can work with the fibers because I made my own rope, which was fun. So, no, I've never smoked because I'm terrified to, and a lot of other reasons.
Forget all that. Yeah, I'm sorry. You said weeds, and my brain was like, I can't. Why is he saying
Forget
this?
everything else. I might die.
So anywho, go ahead. Sorry.
So, what I was getting into is stuff was getting really, really hard. I was getting stressed. I had one class in particular that was killing me. I was struggling with it. I was so close to failing, and that made me more freaked out, and it was becoming a cycle. I went and I got help, which when you're in a place like that, you should definitely get help.
Yes.
And what the therapist told me is she asked what I was doing during my days. And I said, well, I study and I exercise. And that's it. And she said, okay, the exercise is good, but do you do anything fun? I was like, well, no.
I'm
I
in
have
college.
to study.
What are you talking about fun?
So she prescribed me to do 1 hour a day of something I loved. Couldn't be video games, couldn't be TV, couldn't be movies. And it made a huge difference in my state of mind and how I was able to handle the rest of the semester. That's what got me through those classes.
Ooh.
So you actually have to schedule it in.
Yeah, at that time I did because I was convinced that I didn't need it, but I did. And it's the same thing I do now by making sure I take health walks during the workday. It's really easy to tell myself, no, this is more important. I've got to power through. It's not.
Yeah, because you can't power through if you're dead.
Well, you can power through right until you die.
Well,
Bonus points if you go past that, but
okay. I want to throw something in here because I know we don't want to let April talk or anything, but I want to throw something in here real quick. Just because you're a full-time writer doesn't mean you're going to have more time for hobbies. Okay? I keep thinking about you two. You work full-time and then you come home and you write. Well, let me tell you something more. You write and then you go to work full-time, same smell. I'm just saying, don't think that, well, all I got to do is wait until I'm a full-time writer and then I can do this, because it ain't true.
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I have less. Okay, when my kids were little, everyone out used to tell me, you have more time now than you'll ever have. And I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. And I mentioned it to an older woman whose kids were like out of school. And she said, oh, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. And called me back a couple days later and said, yeah, I've been thinking about it. It's true. I had more time to do stuff for myself when I had little kids than I do now. And the same thing is true of writing. When I was part-time writing, just now and then, here and there, a little there, a little whatever. Yeah, I had time for all this stuff naturally. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Well, too bad, because you need to make time for it.
Yeah.
You really do. And
Shalise, just saying, cards
so
this week.
That's actually a really good point. Even if wherever you are and your journey as an author, build that habit now of making sure you are maintaining your hobbies.
Don't wait for tomorrow. It doesn't come.
That's a very good point. Chautona, can you tell us about the hobby quiz?
Yeah, we have a link for you in the show notes somewhere, and I found it online. It's this cool PDF. It's just a list of all these things. I enjoy this. Yeah, I enjoy this. You go through this thing, and then at the bottom it says, okay, well, if you enjoyed these things here, then these might be good hobbies for you. Or if you enjoyed those things there, those might. And it's just a simple way if you don't know what you enjoy, because I've had friends who said, I just want a hobby, and I don't know. I don't know what I would be good at or what I would like. Nothing just says, oh, I got to learn how to do, but I want to do something. Well, this is a way to find that something.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
I want to take the quiz. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to.
Oh, we're all going to take
right,
the quiz.
and we'll put our results in there. I want to see what it says, because I'll bet it'll say that, cheese making is like my greatest.
It probably is.
And also, dear listeners, by the way, if you ever need a hobby, it sounds like you can just email any of the three of us.
And we got one for you.
We'll just
one of us has
rattle
done it all.
We'll give you a list. So, that's time, unfortunately. We
Really?
can probably go. Yeah, it really is.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness! Spotlight at the end. Woo!
I'm sorry. We were having such a good time. I didn't want to stop.
Good.
So
Sometimes I think we need to mix it up.
At some point, we're going to have to talk about taking your hobbies and building it into your writing, because
Yes.
this just covered why hobbies are great and why you have to have them. we should talk about how to use them.
Ooh,
that's
yeah,
a
make a
good
note.
point.
And how we have used them.
Ooh,
That's a good
da, da, da.
So this week, what we would like you to do is take the hobby quiz, and then on your social media of choice, go ahead and tell us what that is, hashtag Alive in Writing, and we will actually post ours as a separate post.
This has been Alive in Writing. Sometimes that's all you've got, but it's all you really need. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.